take this one out.
Hello, my name is Marit Harden. Welcome to Marit Harden Ministries. This is our thoughtful tutorial video series, and today we are in thoughtful video 3. Today I want to talk about ways that we can unhook from unhelpful thoughts. You know, there are lots of thoughts that we have that don't help us get to our goals, and part of this is recognizing these thoughts in our thinking. So in our first 2 video series, one was starting to slow down enough that you notice your thinking and that you have thinking about your thinking, a higher order skill. And the second video, we started to talk about thought trains. Well, today we're going to use a different analogy, and some people call it putting a label on our thoughts. I like to think of it as a style of thinking. Recognizing just like you can put on a certain style of clothes every day as you get up in the morning, bright colours for some days, maybe monochrome on other days, cold weather winter gear on some days, depending on the weather and the seasons and your mood. Well, in the same way, you have styles of thinking. Some of your styles of thinking will have come from your family background, from ways that you've seen other people think, from your own experience of thinking a certain way and having an outcome from it. So I want you to think of your thinking as having styles as well. And sometimes we can have an unhelpful or unnecessarily negative style of thinking. So where our thinking goes down a negative spiral. So I'm going to give you a whole list of different types of thinking styles. And as we go through this list, I'm going to give you a few examples, and I want you to imagine if you notice any of these styles are ones that you've used yourself. So the first thinking style I'm going to talk about is all or nothing thinking, black or white thinking. It's sort of like the style where we see something as all good or all bad. There's no grey in the middle of this. I remember one of my patients many years ago coming in on a fortnightly basis early in the week, and each time he came he would describe his weekend as, oh, it was the best weekend ever, or it was the worst weekend ever. It was very much and very clearly an example of all or nothing or black or white thinking. I remember many years ago when my middle child at school came home and said, I had the worst day in the world, and I had to sit him down and ask what was worst about that day. And it turned out it was just one thing, someone who said something mean at lunchtime. The rest of the day was fine, but that one event had coloured it so that they saw it as all terrible. Sometimes we have that sort of thinking. We have one event that colours everything, and we think that it has made that day or that week or whatever the worst week. Another style of thinking is catastrophizing. We often catastrophize by having thinking about what could be the worst case scenario. Now, I have friends who swear by catastrophizing. They wouldn't call it catastrophizing. They would call it being prepared for the worst case scenario. There's even books on worst case scenarios out there. But I actually don't think it's a very helpful style of thinking. You might think it's being prepared. You might think that by having thought of the things that could go wrong, that in your thinking of it, you've made yourself aware of the possibilities of things that could go wrong. But, I'm going to just say, this is a big but, it puts a negative light on whatever it is that you're going through, where you are now on the lookout for things to go wrong. If you're on the lookout for things to go wrong, you're more likely to see little things that suggest that things are about to go wrong. I'm going to suggest that a catastrophizing style of thinking puts a negative frame right at the front of your thinking, right on at the thought trains that are going past your platform. And if you choose to go on those thought trains, it will take you towards more fear and anxiety. Another style of thinking is personalizing. Many people personalize. When something goes wrong, they imagine that somehow or other that event that happened, whatever went on, was actually a reaction to them. So if somebody says something mean, that must have triggered it in some way, shape or form. But this personalising style of thinking makes a lot of assumptions. It makes assumptions that most things in life happen around you because of you, rather than you having to be an observer or part of the process. It puts a lot of focus on yourself. I've got a wonderful example of how this personalising happened in one of my patients many years ago. A lady who came to see me, who worked in a very open plan office. She described how once her